that led families to reduce fertility and as countries became wealthier. The paper integrates these two theories, and it combines a model of the household fertility labor supply choice with the growth model, and in which the wages of men and women are determined. The main concern of the study is with how growth via changes in women's relative wages affects household decision of having a baby, and the women's labor force participation, and how this decision turn feedback through the aggregate production mechanism to affect output growth. The first part of the story, the analysis of the fertility in terms of men's and women's relative wage. Children are considered durable goods, and that appear in the parents' utility function. Increases in women's wages raise both household income and the price of children, and so have offsetting income in substitution effect on the demand for children. So the final piece of this story is that an increase in the capital intensity of the economy raises the relative wage. For the purposes of model of this article, we focus on a simplified description of the men and women, that women and men have equal quantities in brains, but men are more brown, so more in this is it. And in more developed economy, brains, the higher the reward of brains related to brown. Oh, I forget about this. Sorry, I'm a little bit shaken. It's cold in Italy, a little bit. Structure of the model. We consider a generation model in which people live for 3 periods. In the first period of life, people are children, and they consume a fixed quantity of time from their parents. In the second period of time, people raise children, and they supply labor to the market and earn wage. For convenience, we assume that they do not consume in this period. Of course, that's not possible, but in the third period of life, people do not work, and they just consume their wages from the previous period along with acquired interest. The capital stock in each period is equal to the aggregate savings in the previous period. We model the economy as being made up of 2 kinds of people, men and women. And in adulthood, however, men and women they differ in terms of their ability to earn wage. As we know, the endowment exists, and now, of course, it's less, but the article is not new. We assume that men and women have equal endowments on mental inputs to contribute, but the men have more physical strength. And although we are concerned with the differences between them, and our basic unit of analysis is the couple, which is composed of 1 man and 1 woman. Couples are taken to have joint consumption and joint utility. There are 3 factors of production: physical capital, K, physical labor, LP, and mental labor. To simplify matters, we will assume that women have no physical strength, but the results that I will present will follow as long as women have less strength than men. Our key assumption will be that the richer in physical capital is economy, the more highly rewarded is mental labor, and the reason for this fact is that at least so far physical capital does a better job replacing a human strength than it does replacing human thinking. So the production function that we use incorporates the above assumption is in a simple way. We assume that physical capital and mental labor exhibit complementary in production. Physical labor is neither a complement nor a substitute for either of the factors of production. Here we can see we can rewrite our production function in per couple terms, and we can see that this is it. KT is per couple capital stock at time. MT is the per couple input of mental labor. Since the man will always supply 1 unit of physical and 1 unit of mental labor, and women will supply between 0 and 1 unit of mental labor, the variable M will take values between 1 and 2. Also, we have to say that all factors of productions are assumed to earn their marginal products. The elasticity of substitution between capital and mental labor is near smaller than 1. Couples receive utility from the number of children they have and from consumption in the last period of life. There is the utility function. Here it is. Maybe we can go a little bit forward because time. We have to say that time spent raising children cannot be spent working, and so the opportunity cost of children is proportional to the market wage. We ignore any issues of the quality of children. We just pay attention to quantity. So the only decision that household makes is how many children to have. Alternatively, the household can be seen as deciding what fraction of its time should be spent working and what time should be spent on children, on raising children. Here we can see the couple's budget constraint in 3 possible optima. We can say that in a point, the woman will work part-time and raise children part-time, and while the man works full-time, because indifference curve is tangent to the lower portion of the budget constraint here in this point. In point B, the man, this is it. The man will work part-time and raise children part-time, but the women raise children full-time. And in the points C, we have to say that both women and men are criticized. Women raise children full-time and the men work full-time. Also, we have to pay the attention that steady-state equilibrium. The existence of multiple steady-state equilibria in one sector of generation model is consistent with the new classical assumption concerning preferences and technology. The multiplicity of equilibria in the current model occurs because of an acceleration in the rate of growth that is associated with women joining the labor market and the labor force, even under a set of parameters that would guarantee uniqueness in the conventional one sector mode, generation mode. The two steady states differ in their level of female labor force participation. Women who spend all of their time raising children in the lower steady state, while in the highest steady state they work part-time and raise children part-time. Countries with a relatively low initial level of capital per worker may converge to a development track where high fertility induces lower per capita, which in turn induces women who confront low relative wages to maintain their high fertility rate and low labor supply. So I won't ruin your mind with all the econometrics that was in this article, but we have to come to a conclusion. This paper examines a mechanism of linking the fertility and growth. There are three components to this model. First is increases in capital per worker raise women-related wages. Since capital is more complementary to women's labor than to men's. Second, increasing women's relative wages reduces fertility, and by raising the cost of children more than household income. So the third, lower fertility raises the level of capital per worker. So the positive feedback loop generates a demographic transition. A rapid decline in fertility accomplished by the accelerated growth. We have presented an equilibrium model in which there is positive feedback from the fertility to higher capital and output per worker, and then when it's higher wages for women, back to low fertility. I think that's enough.
Okay. Any questions?
Oh, no, that's enough.
Thank you very much.